Good day, everyone, especially to our instructor, Mr. Anthony Gamali. Good day, sir. For today's video, I'm going to report about the most well-known traits and attitudes of the Filipino. Every country has its differing values and stereotypes, and the Philippines is no exception. We Filipinos firmly believe that our country has the best values and traits in the world. Although we have been colonized by several countries, many core values from our ancestors remain intact and are still honored to this day. Filipinos are not perfect, but we have great characteristics and qualities every one of us should be proud of. So below, I've listed some of the most well-known positive and negative traits of Filipino. First is the positive traits. First is the hospitable. Hospitable. This is one of the most popular qualities of Filipinos. Foreigners who have gone to the Philippines find themselves falling in love with the warm hospitality they are shown. It's a different kind of value system which has existed for thousands of years. So, here are some examples of the hospitality that Filipinos show, not only to foreigners but also to their fellow citizens. So, first example is when a person visits a friend's house, the host greets him or her with a very warm welcome. The host will immediately let their visitors sit down and will prepare a meal or a snacks plus drinks for the visitors. So the host will insist that the friend not leave the house with an empty stomach. A host will always make sure you had a great time visiting them. And people offer their guest room to visitors if they are going to spend the night. Meals, another example is meals offered to guests are very special. A host always finds a way to prepare great tasting food that her visitors wants to eat. Filipinos love to get together for big family meals. Filipinos love um, so number 2, respect and courtesy. So this is often observed not just by younger people but also by people of all ages. So first example is children respect elders by saying po and opo, which means yes when answering their elders. So second example, children or young adults also show respect by putting their elders' hands on their foreheads. So number 3 is to strong family ties and religion. Yes, Filipinos value their families so much that they tend to keep families intact through the generations. And for example, families go to church and pray together because their religion is important and creates a strong bond, marking God as the center of their lives. And second example is families make sure to have quality time together, especially after a day's work. So, They just watching television or eating a family meal will be valued and prioritized in everybody's schedule. And the fourth one is the generosity and helpfulness. So yes, Filipinos are generous people. Even we have very little, we always share with those around us. Example of that is during special occasions such as birthdays or fiestas or parties when people from other places visit your home to celebrate with you. There are lots of foods especially prepared for everyone. Friends, family, friends of friends, and even strangers can gather, and they are always willing to share food and help out. The other example is when a neighbor is in trouble, Filipinos are always ready to help them. So number 5 is strong work ethic. Yes, we are hardworking people to the point that we are willing to work almost the whole day just to feed our families. That's how Filipinos are. So, one of the example is that hardworking person is a farmer. They they earn so little but they still work very hard for not much compensation. Another example is Filipinos always find creative ways to earn a living, like creating small businesses from their home where they sell foods or other items for the convenience of their neighbors. And number 6 is loving and caring. Yes, this is true. Filipinos are the sweetest and most loving people in the world. I agree with that. I'm not just saying this because I'm a Filipino. If you know as well, you will soon figure this out. And for example of that is men are so sweet and romantic when it comes to love. They will send their beloved flowers, chocolates, bring her to a very romantic place, or text her sweet quotes and tell often how special she is to them. Yes. And next example is Filipino women are also romantic and very caring, which often makes foreigners want to marry them. So, women tend to prepare dinner before their husband come homes. They are loving and value the relationship, always staying faithful to their husband. They love deeply and sincerely. So, next is the negative traits of Filipinos. I don't want to sound totally arrogant, awesome as Filipinos are. We are not perfect. Here are a couple of more negative traits which also really represent Filipinos. Generally, Filipinos are known to be happy, friendly, and very hospitable people, and we are known for all these good qualities around the world. Then, but let us face it, Filipino people also have annoying and bad habits that sometimes give the country a negative reputation. These habits not only pull us down personally but the entire nation as well. First is the fatalism. Fatalism, an attitude of what goes around or comes around or come what may. We have a tendency to surrender our future to fate. We often accept bad news or circumstances without trying to stop or change them. This can sometimes be helpful in adversity, but it can also keep us from finding ways out of situations. Also, constantly expecting the worst can get pretty depressing. Next is grab mentality. So this is prevalent in politics where people tend to push each other down to clear the way for their own gain. So politicians especially try their best to ruin each other, but this can also happen among regular people. I think it goes to the point of selfishness. And number 3 is the procrastination or manania habit. This is Filipino habit of living for tomorrow. What can be done today? They tend to postpone their actions for a later time, thus reducing accomplishments. Filipinos are fond of saying bukas na lang or sa susunod na lang due to laziness. Yes, this arises from a slack mentality that a problem will eventually go away by itself. Next is a lack of self-discipline. Yes, we have laws and regulation in order to achieve a harmonious community. However, most Filipinos have this penchant of disregarding the rules in order to prioritize what they want. There's a theory that explains why Filipinos lack discipline or fail to implement rules. And it is something that is ingrained in our very culture. Being oppressed by various colonizers for such a long time made our ancestors defiant of the rules they believed to be discriminatory. Those creating a mentality of self-righteous disobedience. This is reflected on how Filipinos break laws to save time. And another one is Filipino time. Yes, I agree with that. Why? Because related to the manana habit, Filipino time refers to the Filipinos' own unique brand of time, which is known to be minutes or hours behind the scheduled or standard time. These behaviors drives time observant foreigners to get frustrated because Filipinos tend not to observe punctuality at all. It's a dreadful habit that needs to be stopped as it hinders productivity and progress. So not to mention that you're not only wasting your own time but other people's times as well. Attitude towards utang. Yes, Filipinos love to live large. Everyone's idea of a good life is having enough money to afford their needs and wants. The problems comes when some of us choose to drown themselves in debt to achieve just that. Whenever they want something, their course or action is to borrow money from anyone they know and avoid them for the next couple of months. And we need to stop our terrible attitude with it when it comes to borrowing money. Why? Because if you really want something, learn how to save up for it instead of asking for another utang. Not only do you burden ourselves with debt, you also strain our relationship when you ask for money all the time. So, work hard to sustain the lifestyle you want. I'm sorry, guys. There's a... Next is the continuation. Next is the... What do you call this? So, next is hypocrisy. This is a threat of the Filipino where criticisms to others, failure to live with the moral standards of the society are inevitable. In the Philippines, morality morality is highly valued. So most of us try to live up to the standards set by the traditional society. However, as no one is perfect, yes, no one is perfect, many of us are not actually able to sustain these standards. So, the fear of being an outcast has forced a lot of people to live a double standard life. To hide our failure in following a norm, we tend to be condemning those who are caught red-handed. A perfect example could be the criticisms faced by those who become pregnant outside marriage. Yes, this is familiar. The sad fact behind this scenario is that some of these critics could have actually engaged in premarital sex too, only that no proof is visible. Another one is Ningas Kugon. Yes, most Filipino are very good at the start when doing something like him, Char. Nevertheless, after a few hours or days, that excitement to do or accomplish something is lost. We and become too lazy to finish what we have started. Yes. And the gossiping. Filipinos are fond of talking about other businesses. It is not true, not only women or into a gossiping, even men can also be nosy on other people's lives. Secrets are brought out, failures and flaws are emphasized, and relationships are destroyed. Worst, as gossips are passed around, they tend to be twisted until the final story becomes too far from the original and those causing more damage. Yes, of course. And another one, blaming. Filipinos can sometimes be too self-righteous. Righteous. When mistake happen, we do not want to take the blame. We lack humility to accept our failures. And instead, we point at others. This show how irresponsible we are in our action. These attitudes destroy teamwork and reliability becomes an issue. Why? Because you are blaming. You are blaming someone. Right? Next is the selfishness or being insensitive of others. So, most Filipinos are insensitive to the needs and situations of others. This could be an outcome of having too many problems that Filipinos are facing. And the tendency is to focus on their own needs first before others. Yes. And next, next is the attention taker. Yes, Filipinos are fun and people-loving race. So, those attracting attention is natural for them. Nevertheless, it is a different thing to be an epal or kamalmoks, simply being an attention grabber. Yes, attention grabber. Why? Because sometimes in our desperate need to be the center of attention, we do things that are already embarrassing, like butting in conversation as know it all or by being scandalous. Yes, there's a lot of people being scandalous. This habit is also common to our politician. Instead of prioritizing their duty to give the best service to the people, they rather prioritize their thick faces to grab attention that will bring them more. Okay, next is they rather prioritize their thick faces to grab attention that will bring them more chance of winning in the next election. But thanks to our vigilant netizens, this kind of politicians earns more shame than fame. Okay, next one is being onion-skinned or too sensitive. Another habit or attitude that we need to change is our being too proud, which usually result to being oversensitive. Yes, Kating Joy ako. Oy. If we think highly of ourselves, then we have the tendency to put a wall around us and that signboard on our forehead saying, I must be respected. Therefore, when someone makes a joke or a not too positive comment about us, we feel like we are not respected and we get offended. If all people in the country do not know how to accept constructive criticism, then we can never expect unity. The other one is the living beyond their means or social climbing. One of the reason why a lot of Filipinos live in poverty is because of overspending. Since most people want to live an elite lifestyle, many resort to social climbing or living beyond their means. So sometimes, some of us think that as long as we wear designer clothes and shoes, and we send our children to the most expensive schools, it is all right to be swimming in credits and loans. Yes. Now, next is the passivity, lack of leadership. Yes. Filipinos' lack of initiative for change is also one reason why our country does not progress. Why? It's because we keep on complaining against the government and other societal issues. However, we do not anything about them. One of our excuses is the lack of faith that our small actions can bring change. However, the worst reason for this could be our lack of care for what is happening around us. So, common Filipinos also lack courage and confidence. Why? If you can notice it, in classroom, churches, or conference rooms, most of us don't like to sit in the front seat. Next is disobedience to simple rules and instruction. So some Filipinos, despite of understanding of the purpose of laws and ordinance, have inability to observe and follow them. Consequently, crime, victimizations, and accident rate in the Philippines are constantly rising, or poverty is getting more rampant, and lifestyle development is relaxed. Next is tiredness. Only in the Philippines that we have the so-called Filipino time, but not exactly referring to the Philippine Standard Time. But then, we use it to refer to the tiredness of the person that we are waiting, or who keeps on coming late to the set time schedules of events. Instead of being something to be proud of, Filipino time brings a negative impressions to our people. When the invitation says the program will start joke. When Filipino in when the invitation says the program will start 6 p.m., it is expected to begin 8 or 7 p.m. So, this had not only caused conflicts in relationship, it is also discourages others, including foreigners, from getting involved in supposedly productive activities, as too much time can be wasted on. So, the last is the other negative threats. Some Filipino women give birth at an early age, or a teenage pregnancy. Some just don't mind their own business. Some have many bad habits like drinking, smoking, and etc. Some poor teenagers engage in prostitution. There are many broken families. a lot of bad words to choose from, which Filipinos just can't avoid saying those. Most Filipinos tend to be with friends most of the time than to be with their parents. So, that's all. Thank you and God bless everyone.